What if everything we've been told to chase in our life is a lie? You know, that supposed dream? I know I fell into this deeply. For 20 plus years, I chased this dream of money, financial security, like just all the things that I thought I was looking for. And I don't want you to have to go through that if you don't want to. If you want to chase those things, by all means, please do. And there's nothing better than getting our own experience, to be quite honest. But if you're looking for help and you want to find another way or at least learn from my experiences, then I welcome you to join me on this journey. I used to work a ridiculous amount. Right from basically getting out of high school, I worked crazy hours. I traveled all over, mainly the province that I was in. I traveled to other provinces as well. And you know, that deep grind for money. It's all I knew. They didn't teach me anything else. Actually, nobody really taught me anything about life. I just noticed through what my parents did and what other people did that, oh, we need money. So let's go make as much money as possible because that's when we get to live. That's when we'll be free to do whatever we want, or I would be free to do whatever I want. And I gave up many years to that grind, not knowing that there could be anything else. Um, to be in the deep reflections of life of like this truly is magical where we are, and we don't get taught to like go smell the roses type thing. It's no chase, like what's the next thing, what are you doing now? It's like everything turns into a label of who we are, and it's easy to get lost in that trap because then we get into debt. So then we start buying things, or at least I did. I started buying houses, vehicles, even just making money for sheer entertainment, just to go out and spend money, hang out with friends, go drinking, do all the things. And only to realize I have to keep doing this over and over again. I, yeah, I was deep in the thick of it. uh, I just now looking back, I couldn't imagine putting myself through that again. But I can understand back then where I was at. And of course, not given any tools to find another way to do anything differently. Um, of course, I made those decisions because that's exactly what our world looks like. It looks like we need all those things, and of course, we do. We need money to to have a place to live in most parts of the world, anyways. Um, we need all these, not all these things, but we need some things. The big moment of transition for me happened, would have probably been, let's say, a good 15 years in into my work career. And don't get me wrong, I had some great times working as well. I got to travel, I got to see places that I would have never seen, especially in my later years of the career I was in. I got to go to China and some other places, which was pretty magical to see those places, but I was doing it all for the wrong reasons. And it wasn't until one day when I was actually arguing, full on yelling, because back then I didn't have a lot of emotional um, intelligence, I guess is the word we would use nowadays, for what I was going through, what I was feeling, like none of those things. I didn't have those skills. So my skills were like jokey humor or pretty much anger. those that was my emotional spectrum. And I was brought up very strict and it had to be a certain way. And I started to bring up my kids that way. And one day I was arguing with my child, and she was she was pretty young. So it was like silly looking back of like, why was I even yelling at this child? But I was. And she mirrored me perfectly. She yelled right back. She didn't give any space. She didn't back down. It was actually, looking back, it was quite beautiful to have that reflection, because in the midst of that argument, while we were still arguing, I had a total epiphany. And it's like the argument's still happening, and then there's a light bulb going off in my mind that's like, holy shit. If I can't choose to respond differently to life, how can I expect this child to? Which then, after that event, basically took me down the path of contemplation and reflection. I started to do yoga, which of course started out as like, let's go do the strong classes, the workout ones where you get to learn handstands and all the fancy stuff. And yeah, that's what drew me in at first, because that was the macho path of yoga, as much as yoga wasn't very macho back then. But that's what drew me in. And over time, I realized that I needed the slower classes, that I actually needed my body to open, because there was crazy tension throughout my body. So then I started doing the yin classes, which were just like a few poses even throughout the hour. Like maybe we did 10 poses tops, and we would hold them for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the math works out to. um, and in that, it allowed me to open. It allowed me to start realizing that I can slow down a little bit, and I can start reflecting on my life and where things are going, and what I'm really doing. And it's crazy, because then it took me to the next stage of awakening, which, so I started reflecting, and then it's like, well, there has to be more to life than just this routine of going to work and working all these hours for money to just pay for this stuff that comes and goes willy-nilly. I didn't have much attachment to things, that they just came and went. But I also had money to buy them and, sell them and all that stuff too. So I get the aspect of that. And in the next stage is like, so then I got to reflect on this, like what's actually important to me, which is a long story, because there's many layers to the identities that we've created, or I created in this circumstance. So I had all these identities prior of being a tradesman, and how that looks, and the masculinity, and you can't show emotion, and you can't do these things. So then to be at work with emotions all of a sudden, from slowing down and tapping into my body more, and then realizing that I have these feelings inside me, and wanting to cry and all that aspect, and not feeling safe in that place to be able to go through what I needed to go through. I did have some beautiful friendships there that I could open up with more. And through my reflections, sharing with them, it helped them to open up as well, which is also why I'm making this video, is that I believe that the more we share in our reflections and our past and how we've moved through things, the better it is for everybody. And it allows us to see others going through similar things, which then gives permission, which we don't need permission, but we often want it. And that opening moved me to psychedelics, which was a profound opening, almost too profound. Actually, it was too profound for the time I was in. I did a mushroom journey, and I took 5 grams of mushrooms. I'll make another video just about plant medicines down the road. But I had a mystical experience, and it was the most magical experience I could have. Like, there's no way you could plan out that experience. It opened me to a whole new level of what was possible in this life. And to come back from that journey and to know what's possible, and to feel so deeply, to go back into the trades and to go back into this grind of work. And then basically you work till it's time to go home and eat, and then you go to bed, and then just keep repeating that pattern. And then maybe on a weekend you get a day off or 2 days off, and then, the cycle continues. But these openings just shattered the illusion of that, which also threw me down a depressive state for an extended period of time. And I wasn't great at asking for help. So it took a little longer to go through. um, I did a lot of contemplation. I was reading a lot of scripture and other books to like try to understand myself, what I was going through, and what like possibilities could arise from here. One of the books that deeply resonated at the time, I still think it's a beautiful story, is called Tantric Quest, and it's the guy's journey that wrote the book, basically of his own discovery of love, truly. And and in that, it's like there's so much magic when we can open up to the possibility of love and what that could be like, and the lives that we can live when we are in this open state. There was many layers that needed to be peeled back. Again, I was going through the different identities of a tradesperson, but then once I started breaking those identities down and realizing that there's a possibility of something else, especially after that mushroom journey, um, then I started to create new identities, which I thought were the way that I was or I was supposed to be. But it was still a mental creation. It was still just another identity that the mind could attach to hold me to being a certain way. So that's still a process that I go through my meditations. I also would jump around from practice to like, try this one, now try that one. Oh, this one's the best one now. I'll do that one for a little bit, and then I'll jump over to this one. And then, so there was no, like, there was some consistency, don't get me wrong. But what I'm finding now is that I've committed to a practice, and I've committed to meditation for almost 2 years straight now, every day, twice a day. There's been a few days where I've only done it once a day, but twice a day for the most part. And then in the last, since like February this year, end of February, um, I started a practice called Atmakriya Yoga. And that practice now that I do that twice a day, and I do my puja twice a day, or sorry, once a day, um, they just been opening me more and more and more, and the layers are getting thinner and thinner so that I can see what's true and get back to that true self of who we really are, not these made up versions that our mind wants to create. But it's an ongoing process. There's a beauty in committing to a practice. So if you can commit to one or two practices, say like if you have a breathwork practice and then a meditation practice type idea, um, I would say one doesn't counteract the other. Like if you're doing meditation and you feel like you need breathwork as well, do them both. And if you're doing breath work, meditation is also like a really good tool for that contemplation factor to come in. So the realizations that I found through all of that are basically like these external things that we're chasing, that we're told to chase all the time. There, that inner fulfillment isn't going to come from that. There's always going to be a carrot, for lack of better words, the carrot on the stick analogy, where it's dangling just in front of you all the time. And it's like, there's never going to be enough. It's like, even if you make all the money, I see so many people online talking about making money, and then they're like, the money's not even a thing anymore, and I actually don't even know what to do with my life. It's like I just keep making more money and more money, but the inner satisfaction isn't there. They're still looking for that deeper thing. So don't get me wrong, making money isn't, there's nothing wrong with anything we do as long as we're not harming anybody else. And there's still something deeper. So if you're in that grind, if you're on that path of like looking or feeling like there's something more, then it's like some takeaways to take home are like slow down if you can as much as possible, even if it's like 5 minutes a day to start. But try to just bring your life to a little bit slower pace to give you space to reflect, to do your practice. You need time for yourself. There's also a factor of like just be gentle with yourself. You don't need to rush anything. I always did that. I rushed everything. I dive in. I dive in head first, even if the pool's empty type person. And sometimes it doesn't always feel good. Trust me. um, but yeah, just be gentle and also know that you're worthy. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of the life you want to live. You are worthy of it all. And everything is within you. Anything you think you're lacking right now, you're not. Trust me, you're not. It's all there. That is the beauty of walking home. Is like we're all just walking each other home. And we go through this path and like I say, do as little harm as possible. The more aware we become, the less harm we do, the more we realize it's an internal thing, just like I shared earlier with my daughter being the perfect mirror. She reflected me so well. So those awarenesses are golden. So as we gather those awarenesses, again, slow down, simplify your life as much as possible because when we live simple, it allows us to take time. So if we don't have as many bills or we live in a smaller house or whatever the thing is, I lived in a van for a year, which was the most beautiful. It's been coming up again that maybe I need to go back to something like that at some point. And it's magical to not have the bills because then you realize how attached these things are to us. It's like my partner loves to use the analogy of like hooks. It's like these hooks are in us and there's a string on them, and now we're dragging all these things with us through our journey. And the more hooks that are there, the harder it is to move, right? So simplifying life, create space for yourself, create time for your practice, be consistent, value you. It's not selfish when eventually it will turn to selfless. If that makes any sense. um, just know that fulfillment and freedom are within. Again, everything you need is within. So the more you tap into that heart centered place, the more we get out of the distracted, crazy mind that wants to control our lives, the easier it'll get. And again, we're just walking each other home. And if you're interested in knowing more about me or seeing my experience of meeting a guru, I'll link that video here. And I just wish much love on your journey, and share in the comments your takeaways from this or your experiences. I love when people share their experiences, or if they got something, or if you have a question. I'm a pretty open book for the most part, so I'll do my best to answer any questions. Again, much love on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day. And don't forget to check out the other videos.